Welcome to our update. It's been a few days.
Elk Camp 2020, next installment.
That's right. We had a busy first couple days and obviously tagged out.
Yay!
And we're still here, and not because we have our elk, but because we felt like there was still more to do.
Yeah, yep. And Ken is looking at this area that we're hunting in right now for future hunts. So we're working on doing some scouting this year so we can lay the groundwork for Ken to have a successful hunt when he gets his tag.
Yeah, maybe next year if it all falls into place.
And it's been, an interesting few days.
Yeah. Some ups and downs, and
today is the 15th. It's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So last time we did this, it was Saturday. And we updated you then on the hunt, our success. But then since then, we've been doing some homework, doing some research, doing some scouting, working hard. Hunting is hard work.
Putting on miles.
We have been putting on miles.
Put on 8 and 9 mile days, so it's not like we've been lounging in camp.
Ken has been making me work. Feel sorry for me.
Well,
I'm the old guy.
Who was the one who took us on the most brushy blow-down up a hill hike this entire trip?
What was the terrain difference? It was from like 9,000 feet at least up to 9,500.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, and the slope was like this, going uphill. So we kind of did a sidewinder, working our way up.
And around blowdowns and sliding on pine needles and.
But that was yesterday.
That was yesterday. We should back up a little bit here.
Yeah, let's back up the train to Sunday. Sunday morning, I decided to go back to Sawet Meadow, where we got that elk.
Yep.
Well, and I was sitting there. I didn't see any elk. I did see 3 hunters come through on the north end of that meadow, and just kind of sat it out and hoped to see something. Took a walk after that, saw a coyote, got some nice pictures of the coyote and a few other odds and ends. Ken did something different.
Yeah, I had cut a patch of the elk hide on Saturday so that I could get some fur for fly tying, fly fishermen here. And I spent part of Sunday just cleaning that patch to keep it in good condition so that the fur would stay good for tying flies. And then when I was finished with that, I grabbed my gear and headed out towards one of the meadows to meet up with Chip, with the idea of checking trail cams, maybe moving some, and exploring a little bit more of that area that we hadn't looked through very thoroughly yet.
Yeah, we've known that we've heard bugles down in that area. We know that there have been elk hanging down in that area. And we've walked a little bit around the edge, but haven't really dug into it too much.
No, and it was a little bit of a risk because at this time, it got quiet. There was no more bugles. I think we saw a bull elk with a couple of cows at one point, but silent. They just snuck through somewhere. So we were kind of unsure how this was going to play out, but thought we should at least make an effort at it.
Yeah, so Sunday went down, moved a camera or two, got in that line crossing, the fence line crossing, got that camera in place, and then walked some trails in there and found a couple spots that we liked.
Yeah, some good elk highways is the best way to put it.
Yep, just pounded down to the turf, just ruts, like a road rut, like the ruts behind us. Looked good, found 2 spots fairly close together between a fence line and the meadow where they come and go in and out of the meadow, back into cover, out of the cover into the meadow at night, out of the meadow back into cover in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's the cycle, and we wanted to be on that runway.
Yeah, it was the best looking runway, had the most activity, found some spots where we could conceal ourselves, and decided we would give it a try. So we got up early in the morning.
Alarm went off at 3:30.
Yep.
We were out there by 4:40.
Yeah, somewhere right around there.
Right around in there. So it took us a little bit of a hike. It's a little more than a mile to get out there from camp. So
we got hunkered in, and we heard a couple of bugles on the way in, so that was exciting. But after we got sat down, then I don't know what you want to call it, but the noise started. I don't know how many bulls were out there, but they were all yelling at each other, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would say at least 8, if not 10
Yeah.
different voices that we heard from bugling elk.
Different spots, some were higher pitched, some sounded like they had a sore throat, and growling, and it sounded like some would be a little closer, then a little farther, and we were just kind of hoping that as the light came up, they would come down our path.
And somewhere around 5:30, it finally got light enough to kind of see through the woods, see out into the meadow, and I could see one elk go from right to left, and the meadow edge, the wood edge around the meadow was probably, what, 150 yards out?
Somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there. So we were back off the meadow a good piece. We didn't want to flush anybody coming in. But you could see one bull elk making a crossing out in that meadow. So I texted Ken to let him know that there was some activity happening, moving around besides just standing and bugling.
Yeah, and I was further back, so I didn't see this, but I definitely took the time to get my phone out and try and record some audio of the bugles and just wait as the light came up further for them to start filtering through.
Yeah, and as it got a little bit lighter, the bugles kept coming.
Yeah.
Some got a little more intense, a little bit closer, and then finally I see elk through the tree line coming across again from my right to my left and working in on the edge of the woods, coming up into the wood line, not coming up our path directly at us, but coming up at an angle headed off to the southwest. The first two bulls were adolescents, maybe
Probably.
older adolescents.
Yeah,
Not raghorns, not spikes.
a little bit bigger.
Yeah, a little bit bigger, but they weren't, just those bulls that get your blood moving.
They weren't the boss.
They weren't the boss. The boss was behind those two and following them. So as they got in, they hit kind of an opening around 125 yards, had my camera, and our goal that morning was to get some pictures and some audio. Get some audio and video. That was our goal, besides watching the traffic and finding the pattern. So when that bull, the second bull, which was one of the two youngsters, crossed the opening, I moved my camera a little bit. He's got me like that. He nailed me. He knew I was there, and he was just locked on. I twitched a little bit. After about so long, I'm sitting there, and I twitched a little bit, and he said, "I'm out of here." And he took the boss with him. The boss did not come out from behind cover where I could get a clean look at him and a good picture. So I should have just waited, I suppose, until the one I wanted came into view, but I wanted to have the focus set up, everything ready, let this guy keep walking, and wait for the big boy to come through, and it just didn't work out.
No. And from my vantage point, I could see the bodies moving through, and I thought I could see antlers, but it was too dark, too far away for me to get any pictures. And I saw them run off, and part of me was wondering, okay, was it movement, or about that time I could feel the wind at my back. And
Yeah.
we didn't quite play the wind right on that one, and it was blowing towards the meadow, towards the elk. That didn't completely stop their intent, because they came around both sides of us to that fence where they wanted to get to.
Yeah, they had a goal. They got there. They didn't just go through us to get to their goal.
No.
So, yeah, with elk hunting, it's even more important that wind is a big deal, and your scent is a big deal, and we just didn't get the wind right that day.
No.
It was not working in our favor. There was no wind going out, and then as the sun came up, the wind picked up from our backs, moving from the woods out to the meadow,
Yeah.
and we're busted.
We did have one more viewer come through.
We did. I was sitting there feeling sorry for myself, quite honestly, and all of a sudden, I've been looking around, and the red squirrels are in the
my
fir
gosh.
trees, and they're just dropping,
It sounds like
bombs.
big branches snapping. So you think it's got to be an elk going through just busting stuff.
Yeah, and these pine cones are just getting fired from the treetops down and making
So
a lot of
noisy.
noise. And so I'm gonna kind of keep looking around, hoping that some of that noise is an elk, and then something kind of catches my eye, and I can lean forward and look to my right around a couple trees, and I see a nose and a little bit of a face. So, okay, I back up, and I'm wearing the GoPro camera headband, so I've got the GoPro up here. So I click on the GoPro, and then I lean out a little bit and hope he didn't see too much movement from me and that he's going to actually follow the trail. He was coming down from my upper right and walking down a trail where he'd cross right in front of me. Well, the elk crossed right in front of me. It was a spike. The spikes were about this tall and fuzzy, still in velvet. And so I got some GoPro footage of that elk walking past me, probably at about 30 yards, cutting across broadside in front of me. Just a young spike, but fun to see.
Yeah. I got to watch it. There was a little bit of a bush in the way, so no pictures for me, but I got to see it kind of slowly come out and stare at Chip, wondering what's going on, and then kind of turn and saunter off.
So yeah, he just kind of said, "I know you're not usually there. You're not right. I'm just gonna, not take any chances. I'm leaving."
Give him a few more years and he'll pick it up sooner.
Yeah, yeah. It won't be so easy to get video of him now.
No.
But I couldn't pick up my camera, couldn't do anything. He was locked onto me too, and so I was glad I was able to turn the video on at least and get that.
Yeah, and after that we kind of packed it up, went and we checked trail cameras, and one of them that I had moved by the fence turned to video and had some elk jumping over the fence, checking it out. So that was kind of fun. And then we decided it was time to come back to camp, and we had breakfast, kind of set a plan for the day. We were running low on water, so we had to run to town, get some water, come back and kind of figure out what we wanted to do for the evening.
Yeah.
And I decided I wanted to kind of go out by the meadow and try and get some sunset pictures and see what kind of went through. I heard a few more bugles, but nothing overly exciting, but mission accomplished, sunset pictures.
Well, yeah, and you kind of gave us a go-to spot for the morning. If the wind,
right.
We figured if the wind was wrong and at our backs for the place we set up on Monday, we were going to need an alternative if we had another south wind. So Ken found an alternative going down to the meadow.
Yeah, kind of just on the edge of the meadow where the elk would be out in front of us, and we could sit sideways to the wind and our wind wouldn't go in their direction.
Yep. So he was the ambitious one. I was the lazy one. We have seen a number of elk around camp itself, and some of them have just been crossing the road right behind us here. So I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit in the chair with my camera pointed down this road and hope an elk cross tonight when I'm set up to actually catch the elk, instead of just going, oh, there goes one.
Yeah.
So it didn't work out, but that was my plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then we
This
decided.
morning.
Yeah, this morning we decided to get up early. 3:30 again. That alarm went off.
Yeehaw.
We got out there, and the wind was, wrong as we were kind of worried about. So we sat on the edge of the meadow, and it sounded like the elk were a little further out from the bugles. They were still bugling, so we got kind of close up to the edge and found a log we could hide behind and just sat there and waited for daylight to come.
Yeah, see if anything would happen, see if anything would be out in the meadow close enough to get a photo of, or some video and some audio of the bugles and that kind of thing. But everything was around us way at the perimeter of the meadow.
Yeah.
And it was mostly off to the west of us, a couple off to the north.
Couple to the north. I think I heard one or two bugles farther to the south, but
Southwest.
but all a ways out.
Yeah, nothing close, nothing that really got your blood pumping and going, where is he, where is he, where is he?
And as the light started to get a little bit better, we could start seeing dots out there, trying to squint through the camera to figure out what they were, and they all ended up being beef cattle. A little disappointing, but by the time the light came up and we could see well enough, there was no elk left in the meadow. They had all moved off into the woods somewhere earlier than they had the day before. So
much earlier. I mean, by the time it was light and we could see, it was, 5:30, maybe 5:45, somewhere around in there.
The day before, they weren't even out of the meadow yet.
No. So, just elk hunting, it just doesn't feel like no 2 days are the same.
Nope.
I guess is what it is. You got to stay on top of it.
Yeah, hard to make a pattern. You just gotta be lucky. You have to. A lot of it is luck.
Yeah, and different than I think whitetail deer hunting is, where you've got a trail and they're going from bedding to feeding, and they habitually travel these trails and that kind of thing. And the elk are a little more nomadic, it feels like.
They move a lot faster. They have longer legs and they travel a lot farther.
So it's trying to anticipate where they're going to move to and where they're going to be. That's where our scouting has been coming in this time, trying to figure out some of those things so that Ken's got a better plan.
Well, we packed it up and we walked through the woods this time back to camp, just looking around, and every once in a while we still heard some bugles up to the north of us. And I mean, when we first heard them, the elk were long out of the meadow, so we just figured it was hunters who were trying to see if they could call something closer or see if anything was left. And we were pretty much right back to camp, and we'd still hear the bugles thinking they were hunters and joking around about bugling back at them. And we could see a truck on the road and didn't know if we would just mess with them a little bit. And then we heard a bugle in a different spot.
We came into camp, and from where we're sitting, camp is to our left and it's off to the west. And we come into camp and that bugle's coming off to the west, and it's intense. This is not a happy bull.
No.
He was looking for...
He was ready for a fight.
Yeah.
And we happened to look, and all of a sudden there are the elk wandering through about 100 yards from camp, right towards the hunters who are bugling just up the hill.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, I'm glad I didn't bugle and ruin their hunt, but instantly cameras up, trying to pick them through the trees. And, I mean, cow after cow just funneling through, and could finally see the bull, and half rack. Big beam on one side, nothing on the other. And
so he's a 0x7.
Yeah.
He's got nothing on one side, 7, nice mass.
Yeah.
7 points, beautiful one side.
And ready for a fight, trying to keep all of his cows corralled. By the time it was done, we were guessing right around 30 cows with him.
Yeah.
He had quite the group.
He had a nice harem going, and he was getting them going across the road and up the hill to the north. So
where all those bugles were coming from. He was ready to chase off whatever the challenger was.
And it's interesting, this half rack had like 30 cows, 30 cow elk, and the day before in the meadow, none of those bulls had cows with them.
No.
They were all, the group of 3, a bachelor group of 3 bulls came through, no cows. The other bull that crossed in front, no cows. This one had like 30 cows.
Yeah. I guess it's about confidence. Well, take 2, because our battery ran out. Just one of the things of hunting, always having spares, and the battery runs out at some point.
Keep going. So our half rack went through. We had cows go through. It was an interesting morning.
It was an interesting morning.
Then it was time to move on.
Yep. And there was a spot that I had been to before and told Chip about. He'd never been there, so we decided to go up there, take a look, drive up, and explore that area a little bit. It wasn't very far away.
No, it didn't take us long to get there.
Yeah, maybe 10 minutes. And there found a good spot to park. We walked into this smaller meadow that I had seen elk in before, lots of elk sign, and all we saw were cattle, but it is a spot that has potential, and there's a couple different ways that we could play it if we thought maybe there'd be something in there to go for a hunt.
Yeah, and it's connected to the area that we're hunting, so it's trying to get a feel for the patterns of the animals that are in the area, and that's just another piece of the puzzle is taking a look at that area as it's connected to the herd we're looking at. So that was good.
It was good, and we.
But the most fun was on the way back.
On the way back, driving up the road, and I could see something off on the side, and I'm like, I recognize that shape. And I'm like, that's a grouse, and I pointed it out to Chip, and I knew around here it's blue grouse, and I had seen a couple around this area before, but not very many, so it was very exciting, and Chip had never seen one, right?
Yeah, I had never seen one before. I was excited because that was my first blue grouse. I've always wanted to see one. I thought they were interesting critters, and got to see one today.
You got some good pictures of it, and and some of you might be familiar with other grouse, they're a little bit smaller. These ones stood about that tall.
Yeah, nice hefty grouse.
They're good-sized birds.
Yeah.
And wanted to get more pictures, but the cows came up, and then the dump truck was right behind them, chased them off. So we came on back to camp and did a few things, kind of tidied up some stuff, and started making a plan, and decided, we haven't been up just north of camp where we saw those elk through this morning. So that was our next trip.
Figured it was a good opportunity, while it was fresh in our mind and the sign was fresh, let's see where they went. Let's see what the travel patterns are over there. Again, connecting those pieces of the puzzle together in this hunting area. So it was a good walk.
Yeah, found some good trails based on where the elk came from, what the trails are doing, kind of have an idea of, where they're coming from. It looks like they're going over to that bowl we explored the other day, and then probably back. And I don't know if it's an everyday thing or every couple day thing, but it's another spot to look at.
Yeah, and like we talked about, it's good to have spots so that different wind conditions push you to be in different places so that your scent is not wafting right up to the nostrils of the elk. You want to be invisible, and that's part of it.
Yep, and you see elk in one spot, and you kind of know they're coming from feeding, going to bedding, and you make an educated guess that they might be going back to the same feeding area or have a similar route. So you can try and guess and gauge off of that where the elk might be going through, what kind of a pattern they might have for that moment, and try and set up on them if it's going to work out.
Yeah, and we're not elk experts. We're still learning, so that's why this field time is important, is to spend time with the elk in the field and get to learn more. Each time we go, we learn more stuff.
Yeah, and it has been a blast so far. We have I've seen more elk on this trip than I have at all ever up here in any other trip.
And I've seen more elk this trip than I think I've seen in my outings combined over the last, I've only been doing this since like 2015, 2016, so only for 4 years or so. Yeah. So a novice, really, but learn a lot every time. It's great. And this time it was fantastic to see so many elk on different areas, different spots, watching the travel and observing and learning.
And to be able to take what we've learned so far, put together a plan, have it work out, fill that tag, and then not be rushed and be able to enjoy the rest of it and continue to learn and see what else we can find out.
Yeah, it feels like some of the learning is paid off this year in meat in the freezer, really, So I know a lot of people are out there for big bulls, and I think this year for me was about the experience, about getting in the field, getting that opportunity, learning more, and maybe putting some meat in the freezer.
Yeah, and that's what we've been doing. It's been great.
It has been great. So tomorrow is Wednesday. Yeah, Thursday we're headed out on Thursday. So tomorrow is a little bit of field time and a lot of camp pickup and cleanup. There's always chores around camp, but tomorrow is reorganizing things and getting situated so that Thursday we can break camp and get on the road back home.
Yep, and hopefully learn a little bit more, put a little bit more pieces of the puzzle together so that when the chance comes, I can be ready to go.
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
You know, we just appreciate the support from family, friends, and folks that have kept the wheels on the bus while we've been gone, and helping us out and making it happen.
Absolutely.
Rick, Laura, you two especially, thank you for me.
Yeah.
So,
It's been wonderful. So thank you, everyone, and
yeah.
we'll clue you in on anything exciting that's happened in the last day and a half. And till then, we'll hope you have a good day, and thanks for tuning in, watching us, and being part of this trip.
We'll talk to you one more time.